The message came when Daniel Rahman least expected it. It wasn't loud or dramatic. No call, no warning. Just a short email that landed on his phone while the city slept. The words were polite, clean, and cold. The company was moving forward. Without him, his role was no longer required. Gratitude was expressed. Best wishes were offered. In that quiet moment, everything Daniel had built collapsed without a sound. He sat up in bed, reading the message again and again, waiting for his mind to reject it as a mistake. 10 years of work couldn't end like this. He had been there when the company was nothing but an idea scribbled on a cafe napkin. He had skipped weddings, birthdays, and family dinners. He had stayed when others left. And now he was being erased, in a few carefully chosen sentences. By morning, the shock hardened into confusion. Daniel dressed slowly, his movements stiff, his thoughts racing faster than his hands. He went to the office anyway. Habit pulled him there. Hope maybe. But when he arrived, the security desk stopped him. His access card no longer worked. The guard avoided his eyes, apologetic but firm. That was when the truth finally landed. This wasn't a mistake. It was planned. As Daniel stepped back into the street, the noise of traffic felt unreal. Like the world was moving too fast for what had just happened. His phone buzzed again. This time it was Amir Khan, his partner. His friend. Let's talk later, the message read. It's complicated. Complicated. Daniel almost laughed. Amir had always been good with words.com. Reasonable, convincing. That was why people trusted him. That was why Daniel trusted him. The pieces began to fall into place over the next few days. Daniel didn't need to dig deep. The truth found him on its own. Former colleagues called quietly. One sent documents. Another apologized without saying what they were sorry for. Daniel learned that Amir had been meeting the board without him for months. He had presented Daniel as a risk. Too cautious. It's too emotional. Not fit for the future vision. Worse than that, Amir had taken credit for Daniel's work. Ideas Daniel had designed late at night were now labeled as Amir's strategy. Deals Daniel had secured were framed as Amir's leadership. The story of the company had been rewritten, and Daniel had been edited out. The betrayal cut deeper because of how close they had been. Daniel remembered the early days clearly. Two young men sitting in a small apartment, laptops balanced on their knees, dreaming bigger than their bank accounts. Amir had talked about growth and power. Daniel had talked about stability and people. They had balanced each other. Or so Daniel thought. Now he wondered how long Amir had been planning this. Every friendly smile from the past suddenly felt fake. Every shared success felt stolen. At home, Daniel's apartment felt smaller than ever. The walls seemed to press in on him. He replayed conversations in his head, searching for the moment he should have seen it coming. But betrayal rarely announces itself. It waits until you feel safe. Sleep became difficult. When Daniel closed his eyes, memories flooded in. Amir laughing, Amir promising loyalty, Amir calling him brother. Each memory twisted into something sharp and painful. Anger replaced shock, slow at first, then burning. Daniel wasn't angry about money. He could survive without it. He was angry about dignity, about trust, about being treated like a tool that could be discarded once its job was done. One night, while sitting alone in the dark, Daniel realized something that scared him. His thoughts had changed. They were no longer about understanding what happened. They were about balance, about making things even. He imagined Amir standing where he now stood, confused and powerless. The thought brought a brief sense of relief. That relief frightened him more than the anger. Days turned into weeks, and Daniel said nothing publicly. He didn't post online. He didn't argue. Silence became his shield. But inside that silence, his mind moved fast. He replayed the betrayal from every angle, trying to understand Amir's side. Maybe Amir thought he was saving the company. Maybe he believed Daniel was holding things back. That didn't excuse it, but it explained it. Understanding didn't. Erase the pain. It sharpened it. Daniel began to see how easily trust could be used as a weapon. Amir hadn't attacked him openly. He had smiled, listened, agreed, and then acted alone. That kind of betrayal didn't leave bruises. It left questions. And questions were harder to heal. The city outside kept moving. People went to work. Life continued as if nothing had changed. But for Daniel, everything had shifted. His identity had been tied to the company. Without it, he felt invisible, forgotten. One evening, Daniel received another message from Amir, asking to meet. Daniel stared at the screen for a long time before replying. He agreed. Not because he wanted closure, but because he wanted to look Amir in the eyes. They met at the same cafe where the company had once been imagined. Amir arrived confident, dressed well, calm as ever. He spoke about hard decisions and the greater good. He said he never meant to hurt Daniel. He said it was just business. Daniel listened without interrupting. Every word felt rehearsed. Amir didn't apologize for the betrayal itself, only for the discomfort it caused. That was the moment Daniel knew the truth. Amir didn't feel guilty. In his mind, he had done what was necessary. Daniel was collateral damage, not a victim. As they parted ways, Amir reached out, placing a hand on Daniel's shoulder. "You'll be fine," he said. "You're talented." The gesture burned. Daniel walked home with his jaw tight and his hands clenched. The city lights blurred as his thoughts raced. He felt something solid forming inside him, something heavy and focused. It wasn't just anger anymore, it was purpose. Amir had taken his past. Daniel wondered if he should take Amir's future. That thought settled deep in his chest as the night swallowed the city, marking the true beginning of something dangerous, something that could either destroy him or define him forever. Daniel Rahman stopped waiting for apologies. Once that hope died, his mind grew sharp and restless. Each morning he awoke with the same heavy feeling in his chest, but now it moved him forward instead of holding him down. He no longer asked why. It happened. He asked how it happened and how it could be undone. He kept his days quiet. No public anger, no online posts, no calls to old colleagues unless they reached out first. On the surface, he looked like a man recovering. Inside, he was building something else. His thoughts moved fast, jumping from memory to detail, from past meetings to hidden decisions he had once ignored. Daniel began reviewing old emails stored on his laptop, not to search for comfort, but for clarity. Patterns appeared quickly. Meetings Amir had scheduled without him. Documents Daniel had created that were later presented under Amir's name. Small changes that once felt harmless now looked deliberate. The betrayal was not sudden. It was planned over time, patient and careful. Late at night, Daniel sat at his desk, the room lit only by the screen. His face was calm, but his mind was loud. He realized Amir hadn't acted out of cruelty. Amir believed he was right. He believed leadership meant control. To Amir, Daniel's caution felt like weakness. Removing him felt logical, not personal. That understanding made the anger deeper, not softer. Daniel began reaching out carefully. He didn't accuse. He asked questions. Old coworkers responded in careful tones. Some avoided him. Others spoke in fragments. A few admitted they felt uneasy, but powerless. The board trusted Amir. The story had already been written. Daniel felt the weight of isolation. Betrayal doesn't just remove people from your life. It teaches others to step back, afraid of standing beside you. Still, pieces of the truth kept coming. Amir had rushed expansion. He had hidden risks. He had pushed numbers to impress investors. Not illegal. Not yet, but fragile. Daniel understood the situation clearly now. If he wanted revenge, it was possible. He knew where the cracks were. One push, one public reveal, and everything Amir built would shake. The company would fall. Amir's reputation would break. The idea felt powerful. For the first time since the betrayal, Daniel smiled. Then the smile faded. Revenge required patience. It required silence. It required becoming someone colder than he remembered being. Daniel noticed the change in himself. He avoided mirrors. When he did look, his eyes seemed sharper, less forgiving. He wasn't sure if he liked what he saw. Some nights Daniel imagined the moment of exposure. Headlines, whispers, Amir standing alone, confused, betrayed by the same system he used. The image gave Daniel a sense of balance, like the world correcting itself. But the feeling never lasted. It left behind a quiet emptiness. Daniel also imagined the cost. Employees losing jobs, teams breaking apart. People who trusted the company facing uncertainty. He told himself it wasn't his responsibility. Amir had started this. But the thought refused to leave him. In rare moments of honesty, Daniel admitted something painful. Revenge wouldn't give him back the years he lost. It wouldn't erase the nights he doubted himself. It wouldn't restore trust. It would only move the pain from one place to another. Still, the pull was strong. One afternoon, Daniel met Sarah, a former project manager who had also left the company. She listened quietly as Daniel spoke. When he finished, she asked one simple question. If you succeed, who do you become? The question stayed with him. Long after they parted, Daniel began writing everything down. Not plans, but thoughts. Fear, anger, doubt, justification. He realized revenge had become a way to avoid grief. As long as he focused on Amir, he didn't have to face what he had lost. At the same time, Daniel couldn't ignore the injustice. Letting Amir win felt like agreeing with the betrayal. Silence felt like surrender. He walked a thin line between dignity and rage, unsure which side would define him. Weeks passed. Daniel received a confidential message from an investor he once knew. A meeting was coming up. A presentation Amir would lead. Documents would be shared. Mistakes would be visible. To the right eyes. The door was open. That night, Daniel barely slept. His thoughts raced faster than ever. This was the moment he had been waiting for. The chance to expose everything without lifting a finger publicly. All he had to do was send one file. He opened his laptop and stared at the screen. The file was ready, clean, accurate, destructive. His hands hovered above the keyboard. Daniel thought about Amir again. Not as the confident leader he had become, but as the young man sitting beside him years ago, dreaming of success. He wondered when ambition had turned into justification. He wondered if Amir ever thought about him at all. The question hurt more than the betrayal. Daniel closed the laptop. He wasn't ready, not yet. The next morning, he walked through the city with a strange calm. He knew the choice ahead of him would define everything that followed. Revenge was no longer just an idea. It was a mirror. And Daniel was afraid of what it might reflect. As the days counted down to the meeting, the pressure grew. Every sound felt louder. Every decision felt heavier. Daniel stood at the edge of something final, knowing that once he stepped forward, there would be no turning back. And for the first time since the betrayal, Daniel wasn't sure which outcome he feared more. Losing everything again, or winning at a cost he could never undo. The morning of the investor meeting arrived with a sharp, restless energy. Daniel woke before sunrise, his mind already racing. The city outside was quiet, but inside him everything moved fast. Today was the day where one decision could change many lives, including his own. He showered, dressed, and moved with purpose. His laptop sat on the table like a silent witness. The file was still there, unchanged. Clear facts. Clean numbers. Enough to shake trust without exaggeration. enough to expose Amir's choices without adding lies. Daniel had made sure of that. If he acted, it would be truth doing the damage, not anger. He left his apartment and walked through the streets, letting the cool air hit his face. Each step felt heavy. He wasn't nervous. He was alert, fully awake. His thoughts shifted between past and present, memory and consequence. Across the city, Amir stood in a glass building, confident and focused. He reviewed his presentation calmly. In his mind, this meeting marked progress, expansion, validation. He believed the company's future depended on bold moves. He told himself Daniel wouldn't have understood, that removing him had been necessary. Amir rarely questioned that belief. Doubt slowed people down, and Amir didn't slow down. Daniel entered a quiet cafe near the meeting location. He ordered coffee he barely touched. His phone buzzed with updates. The meeting had begun. The room was full. The file on his laptop was ready to be sent at any moment. All he had to do was attach it and press send. His fingers rested on the keyboard. Time seemed to narrow. Daniel's mind replayed everything quickly, like a film running at double speed. The late nights, the trust. The message that ended it all. The silence, the anger, the planning. The long walks filled with restless thoughts. He realized how much of his life had revolved around this moment. If he sent the file, Amir would be exposed. Investors would panic. The board would question. Leadership. The company would fall into chaos. Amir would lose everything he had built. The balance Daniel wanted would be restored. But balance for whom? Daniel imagined the aftermath. News spreading, calls coming in, people choosing sides, some thanking him, others blaming him. This story would never be simple. Revenge never is. He thought about the employees who had nothing to do with the betrayal. People with families. People who believed in the work. They would suffer first. Amir would suffer too, but not alone. Daniel felt a tight pressure in his chest. He realized something important. Revenge wasn't about justice anymore. It had become about control, about proving he still mattered, about forcing the world to acknowledge his pain. That realization slowed his breathing. Across the city, Amir spoke confidently. He showed charts. He spoke of growth and vision. He didn't see the storm waiting just outside the room. He didn't know how close everything was to breaking. Daniel closed his eyes. He asked himself a simple question. After this, who do I become? The answer came quietly. He opened his eyes, shut the laptop, and stood up. The meeting ended without disruption. Applause filled the room. Amir shook hands, satisfied. His future, he believed, was secure. Daniel walked through the city, without direction, letting his thoughts settle. For the first time in months, his mind felt still. The decision had been made, not out of fear, not out of weakness, out of choice. Later that evening, Daniel received a message. The company's expansion plan had hit resistance. Investors wanted more proof. Numbers didn't fully add up. Amir's aggressive approach was being questioned. Not because of Daniel, but because fragile plans eventually reveal themselves. Daniel read the message slowly. He didn't smile. Days passed. Then weeks. Daniel began building something new. Smollett. First, honest, transparent. He partnered with people who asked hard questions and welcomed disagreement. He worked without shortcuts, without secrecy, without fear. The work felt different, slower, but stronger. One afternoon, Daniel received an unexpected call from Amir. His voice sounded tired. The confidence was still there, but thinner. Amir spoke about challenges, pressure, doubt from the board. He didn't apologize. He didn't admit fault. He spoke as if reaching out was natural. Daniel listened quietly. When the call ended, Daniel felt no anger, only distance. Months later, news spread quietly that Amir had stepped down. No scandal, No headlines, just a shift. Leadership changed. The company continued, smaller and more cautious. Amir's name faded from conversations that once praised him. Daniel heard the news from afar. He felt no victory. What he felt was relief. Revenge had promised power. It had whispered satisfaction. But it would have tied him forever to the moment he was hurt. Kay? By walking away, Daniel had chosen something. Harder but cleaner. He had chosen to live forward instead of backward. One evening, Daniel stood by a window in his new office, watching the city lights come alive. He thought about how close he had come to crossing a line he couldn't return. He understood now that revenge doesn't end pain, it only changes its direction. Healing had come from refusing to let betrayal define his future. Daniel turned off the lights and locked the door, stepping into the night with a quiet certainty. The past no longer owned him. And that, more than any act of revenge, felt like true freedom.